All right, today we're tackling a classic problem, one that almost every manager runs into, the manager's dilemma. We're going to explore how you can stop being the bottleneck that slows everything down and start being the enabler who helps your team do their best work. So let's start with a little story that you've probably lived through. It's about four people: everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. An important job needed to get done, and everybody was absolutely positive that somebody would handle it. I mean, anybody could have done it, but you can probably guess how this ends. Nobody did it. And the final scene in this little office drama, everybody points the finger at somebody because nobody did the very thing that anybody could have done. It's that classic frustrating circle of blame. Yeah, sound familiar? I bet it does. We've all been one of those people at some point. This is what happens when responsibility gets fuzzy, and learning to break this cycle is really at the heart of what makes a great manager. So first, let's figure out if we're part of the problem. Let's talk about the overwhelmed manager's trap and see if you're stuck in it without even knowing. Okay, time for a quick gut check. And be honest with yourself here. Do you find yourself spending way too much of your time on tasks that, if you're being real, your employees could totally handle? And what about your inbox? Is it just a constant overflowing source of anxiety? Is it a sign that pretty much every single decision and piece of information has to flow through you? And here's the real test. You take a vacation, even just for a couple of days. When you get back, is there just a mountain of work waiting for you because nothing could move forward until you signed off? If you're nodding along to these, you might just be the bottleneck. You know, what we're describing here actually has a name: micromanagement. It's that whole pattern of avoiding delegation, needing constant status updates, and just getting way too bogged down in the details. It feels like you're in control, but it's really a trap. It limits you, and it definitely limits your team. So how in the world do we get out of this trap? Well, it all starts with a huge mental shift. It's time to learn how to let go by adopting a totally different mindset around delegation. But hold on, not all delegation is created equal. Oh no, there's a world of difference between what we call Gopher Delegation and the much, much more powerful Stewardship Delegation. See, Gopher Delegation is all about controlling the how. It's you telling someone, go for this, go for that. The manager keeps all the responsibility. Stewardship Delegation, on the other hand, is all about focusing on the results. The employee takes real ownership of the outcome. The key here is you've got to stop managing the method and start getting clear on the what and the why. Okay, so how do we actually do this? Well, true stewardship delegation really just boils down to 5 essential ingredients. First, and this is the big one, you have to actually trust your people. Second, get them to repeat back the goal to you. This makes sure you're both on the exact same page. Third, give them the why, the big picture context. Fourth, let them own it. Take your hands off the steering wheel. And finally, when they knock it out of the park, give them the credit. That is how you build a culture of ownership. Now, letting go sounds great, right? But it doesn't mean you just disappear. This is the paradox. You let go of the how, but you have to stay close to build accountability. This is the other half of the magic formula. So what even is accountability? At its core, it's really simple. It's accepting responsibility for the results, both the good and the bad. It's all about ownership, not about placing blame. And building this kind of culture isn't some big mystery. It actually follows a pretty straightforward 4-step process. First, you establish crystal clear expectations. Then you get real commitment. Third, you inspect what you expect. You check it on the results, not the process. And finally, you provide consistent feedback and consequences, both good and bad. This simple framework creates the clarity every high-performing team needs. You can tell everything about a leader's approach to accountability just by listening to the words they use. Notice this progression. It starts with blame. They made mistakes. Then it gets passive. Mistakes were made. Real leadership starts to show up here. We made mistakes. But the ultimate level, I own our mistakes. That tiny shift in language can completely change a team's culture. So when you combine these two ideas, when you learn to let go of the how but stay close on the what, something really powerful starts to happen. You start to transform from just a manager into a true leader. And here is the real payoff. This isn't just about getting stuff off your to-do list. The result is a team that's more capable, more motivated, and can stand on its own 2 feet. And that frees you up from the day-to-day grind. Focus on what really matters: the vision, the strategy, and growing your people. That's real leadership. You know, the great Jim Rohn once said, you should set a goal big enough that in the process of achieving it, you become someone worth becoming. And making this shift from micromanager to empowering leader, well, that's exactly that kind of goal. It doesn't just change your team, it changes you. So I'll leave you with a challenge. Not for tomorrow, not for next week. What is one thing, just one, that you can delegate using these principles today to start becoming the leader your team is waiting for?